fugitives wanted by Hong Kong after police offered bounties of £100,000 for information leading to the capture of 8 pro-democracy activists based overseas. The pro-Beijing authorities in the former British territory announced the new arrest warrants under these draconian new national security laws, including against 3 activists based here in the UK. Well, I'm delighted to welcome International Affairs campaigner Mark Sabah, who joins me right now in the studio. Good morning to you, Mark.
Good morning, how are you?
Very well indeed. You're very much involved with helping these fugitives here in the UK. Just tell us, first of all, just really briefly, what these people are wanted for. What are their terrible, heinous crimes for which the Chinese state, effectively, not just Hong Kong, the Chinese state wants to have them arrested?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't say that they're fugitives in the way that the Chinese are describing them. They're people who had to leave Hong Kong because they took part in pro-democracy activities and protests. They
peaceful protests,
and they galvanized millions of Hong Kongers to take to the streets, hold umbrellas, sing songs, and do anything possible to shut down a law called the National Security Law, under which anyone can be accused of any crime at any time and be sent to prison for 25 years to life. The UK opened the BNO scheme, of which 150,000 Hong Kongers have taken part in that and arrived in the United Kingdom seeking safety. They are not all fugitives. The Hong Kong authorities have chosen...
It's people who believe in democracy.
Correct.
They were asking for, I mean, the most bare minimum level of having a say in how their country, Hong Kong, was run.
They wanted greater democracy. They wanted transparency into investigation in deaths in prison. They wanted, not to be put on extradition lists to China, that Hong Kong should remain independent from that. And here we have 3 of them living in the United Kingdom, apparently safe here, and yet the Hong Kong authorities are using this national security law to still pursue them in the UK. It's put a bounty on their heads. Now, the aim of that is not just for these 3 people in the UK. It's to silence any Hong Konger or any dissident.
Wherever you go in the world, we will get you.
And that's what they said. They said, we will chase you to the ends of the earth for the rest of your life. Now, the other thing is, if the government doesn't take a pretty strong stance in saying publicly it will protect and defend these people, what stops Iran or Russia or Belarus or Venezuela doing exactly the same? You put a bounty on the head of someone and you immediately set up hundreds of people saying, I'm going to make a quick buck, I'm going to drag someone into an embassy.
Well, this is the concern, because we have seen, haven't we, where embassies technically are, the territory of the country that holds the embassy, of even activists outside the embassy being dragged into the embassy and beaten. And amazingly, Chinese diplomats still allowed in the country. I mean, frankly, out the door. I would have been marching them to Heathrow that morning.
Absolutely, and I would argue that the beating of Bob Chan in Manchester by those 4 diplomats and being dragged into the consular grounds. Thankfully, a British policeman dragged them out, breaking protocol, but thankfully dragged them out. But I would argue that the reason that we now have these bounties and why the Hong Kong authorities are so confident is because we did not expel those diplomats within 24 hours. We did not send strongly worded messages to the Hong Kong authorities and to Beijing saying, if you ever tamper with anything on our territory again, we will shut your embassy.
Yeah, but again, we barely did anything when Vladimir Putin sent his agents over with polonium to kill people and ended up killing two British citizens and severely injuring a British police officer. Could have killed thousands in Salisbury if that perfume bottle had been broken into, to the water supply. There was a bit of tit for tat and a bit of wagging of fingers, but really not much. People always think, why do people like Vladimir Putin, why do people like Xi Jinping think they can get away with it? Because they always do. That's right. And they get away with it because we, in the Western countries, the democracies, we still believe in a rules-based system, and we also think if we play nicey-nicey with these people, they'll come over to our way of thinking. Absolutely. And working with Putin has shown that the more nicely you play, the more of a bullying mentality they take. Takes advantage of it. And we see this with Xi Jinping. But we have this bizarre, at least now we accept we're at war with Russia. At least that he's being treated as the murderous tyrannical dictator he is. And yet Xi Jinping, we saw his deputy prime minister being invited to the king's coronation. This is a regime which locks up prisons in re-education camps, torture camps, 1 million Uyghur people because of their ethnicity. And yet we go, trade. Well, I totally agree with you. And the other thing is this, there's nothing wrong with doing trade with China. There is something wrong with not putting preconditions in the way that they put preconditions. Yes, China loves to say
don't interfere in our internal affairs. Well, what is putting a bounty on a head of somebody living in the United Kingdom? What is asking people to chase those people to the ends of the earth outside of China?
And these are the most, it's like Nathan Law is one of the names that we would certainly recognise. I mean, just incredibly brave souls. I mean, people who, frankly, I am proud to have in this country as people who have stood up against the most tyrannical regime bravely, peacefully. These people are people we want in this country. They're good. These are the people who make the world a better place. We need to be protecting them and making that clear.